films were really shot in Los Angeles.
Noir films are essentially westerns on the streets.
I've always loved noir.
Violence, sex, intrigue, betrayal.
Double Indemnity is one of the best noir films ever made.
Pictures like Double Indemnity, Gun Crazy, Kiss Me Deadly, Touch of Evil, Crisscross.
Sunset Boulevard.
Murder My Sweet, Farewell My Lovely, Chinatown.
They've got the Venetian blinds, they've got the shady lighting, the smoke, the wet streets.
The slatted windows, the Venetian blinds and that kind of thing, fedoras and, you know, women in slinky dresses.
What's a typical film noir? Usually a married woman, very beautiful married woman, meets a stranger and has an affair and convinces the stranger to kill her husband.
And similarly, in terms of the characters, it's a shadowy world. It's a world of male bonding where the only person you can trust sometimes is your best friend or your oldest friend or your sidekick, or occasionally the woman who works for you. But women are generally suspect.
What do you want?
Black coffee, eggs, and a scotch and soda.
Go away.
Excuse me.
And then there's some switch at the end because it's Double Indemnity, and always turns out rather badly for everyone.
Then that leaves only you.
There's nothing I want to do about you now. I know enough.
You know too much. It's gone too far. And I'm so tired.
People seem to like to argue about what the classic noir period is. Most inclusively, people seem to start with The Maltese Falcon in 1941 and go all the way up to Touch of Evil in, I think, 1958. There's now this interesting alternative origin that Robert Wise has proposed of starting with Citizen Kane, which gives a nice kind of Wellesian bracketing.
Well, I don't think film noir is a genre. I think it's a style. Definitely. I think it doesn't follow, for me, it doesn't follow the genre category. I think it's a style that applies to certain of the genres.
It's people emulating that style rather than, you know, the content, you know, and I think that's the most important thing in a noir film is the content.
There's a guy trying to go straight, and there's a, you know, and there's a heroine in distress, but ultimately, you know, everybody just gets sucked back into the darkness and the turmoil.
It's very, very rich. It allows many, many different streams to run into it. So on the one hand, you have the influence of German expatriates, many of them escaping Nazism, who come to LA and are variously entranced and appalled by what they find there. You have those traditions meeting the American traditions of, say, the gangster movie. The American gangster movie meeting something like the Fritz Langian version of a gangster movie, so that you literally encounter Mabuse meets Capone. At the same time, you have the whole tradition of the hard-boiled detective novel being spun out and just begging, crying out for translation onto the screen.
I seen your name on a blackboard downstairs. Yeah? I come up to see you. You're a private eye, huh? That's right.
I think about 2 or 3 years after I made Murder My Sweet, I was, Jean Renoir and I were doing a guest appearance down at some university, I think San Diego University, and both talking. And at the end of what we had to say, one of the students asked me to tell him about film noir. And I said, what is film noir? And he said, well, you should know what film noir is. You started it. And I said, well, I don't. Please tell me about it. So he had heard it, obviously, or, you know, as they do in school about all these things. And I didn't, because we didn't, you don't make a thing. I don't think anybody has ever said, I'm going to start a certain style, or I'm going to start a certain genre. You make a picture, and eventually, if it becomes very popular or something, the French are the ones that create the genre. They have the little cubby holes all over the place, and until they name something and put it in there, it doesn't have a name, you know. And so they were the one. Now, obviously, judging by the title, by the film noir, is very, very French.
When Godard and Truffaut and various French people came up with film noir, I believe they coined the phrase when they were critics. I could be confused about that, but anyway, I might as well be confused about it. So the French started sort of to emulate this at one period of time in the 50s and 60s. And then, of course, my generation of directors, as soon as we could direct, we wanted to make film noirs. I made a thing called Hot Spot, which was my tribute to film noir.
A lot of young filmmakers, such as myself, approach the subject matter because it's a way to make sort of a low-budget action movie, essentially. You can make a fun movie with guys and guns, but you can make it for a modest budget. Well, that's how the genre originally came about. You know, people wanted to make groups of pictures, many movies, for very little budgets, character-driven, but still had that suspense and that action and that violence, and there were two ways of doing it. Horror films, noir pictures.
I've had people ask me, well, you're getting sort of stereotyped as somebody that only does noir films, or is this, you know, that you just do these genre films? And my answer has always been, I mean, this is not such a bad, you know, this is not such a bad problem to have. I mean, these are, I think, wonderful films. They're wonderful films for filmmakers to make. There are so many things that can be explored. You're dealing with, you know, sort of, you know, man's darker nature, which, you know, as far as I'm concerned, is sort of a good place to be in a way.
For me, it's about exploring just what is the truth of something. And the truth of something is that human beings, by and large, left unfettered, have desires to be predatory and vicious and possessive and aggressive towards other human beings.
I've certainly enjoyed noir, and I think one of the reasons I haven't made more film is because the films that I generally want to direct, they think are too dark, and I get this constantly now that it's good script but too dark.
Is that why they call it noir? It was dark. Well, I thought it was noir because some of the films were so bad, you know, because that's all they could have been called, is noir.
I mean, my favorite film of all time is A Place in the Sun, which I think is as dark and as morally complex as one could possibly get. And yet, you know, starred Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery Clift, won Oscars, made $1 billion, was one of the most mainstream Hollywood movies of its time. And that has changed dramatically now. So that if you went to pitch the story of A Place in the Sun, they go, well, go over to Miramax and see if you can make it for $2 million.
Well, they were. The B pictures were low-budget, short-schedule pictures. All the studios in those days, major studios, were making 60 films a year, 60 features a year. Even RKO, where I grew up, started directing, was a major. And so you had a great sense of continuity then, as you don't have now in terms of the studios. A lot of the smaller pictures had to do with suspense or mystery or horror, things I grew up in. And those all are genres that lend itself to low-key lighting, black and white, a lot of shadows. What's going on in those shadows puts an edge to all the suspense you're trying to get. So I think they did contribute. The B pictures contributed quite a lot to this whole kind of what developed into being film noir later on.
Let me tell you something. When I worked on those little pictures, little small schedules, I worked what I did, what I liked, what I felt. When I worked in a studio, they had 16 producers, everyone telling me what to do, and it's just like 16 cooks in the kitchen. You can't eat it.
In B Pictures, we had second-rate scripts written by third-rate writers. We had mediocre casts because we couldn't get the big names or anything of that sort. We were lucky if we got a good actor or actress, and we had no time. We had to make them in 2 weeks. So the important thing was to try to save as much, for those of us who cared anyway and wanted to get the hell out of them, to spend as much time with the actors as possible and as little time lighting the set and spending times on the mechanics of making the film. And one way to do that, film noir lighting, if you will recognize it, requires very little lighting.
I got away from all the big lighting and a lot of machines, and I just used the most necessary quantity of light that I needed to establish. Sometimes only one reflector, you know what I mean? And some of the unions objected to it because a lot of people lost a lot of jobs, you know what I mean? Because I only used one electrician instead of 16. So those were problems.
The lighting was really key to the success of film noir. The ability to compose shots and to divide the spheres of black and white into almost a sort of moral code pictorially represented was absolutely essential to the worldview of the noir genre. So the contributions of the lighting cameramen, especially if you think of someone like John Alton, were really crucial. Something like the ending to The Big Combo is really an emblematic kind of moment for film noir, and really a reminder of how key those lighting cameramen were to the whole elaboration of the style in the first place. The villain is trapped literally by the use of light.
Drop the gun. Come and get it. Come on. I'm taking you to jail, Mr. Brown.
You're not taking me to jail. You have to kill me first. Go ahead, shoot. Go ahead, kill me, copper, kill me. Go ahead, kill me.
Let's go, hoodlum.
The characters recede from our view into a distance in which black and white, light and darkness virtually evaporate into utter invisibility. This sense of a world that was that insubstantial, a world that could be turned on its head by the lighting or the darkness that enveloped the characters, was really sealed into the noir genre by the lighting.
You wrote a book in about 1950 called Painting with Light.
Yes.
What was the purpose of that book?
The purpose was indirectly to show the world what a fight it was to get quality into pictures. It does. If you read the book carefully, you'll feel my feelings, you know, that it was a struggle to get quality in pictures. I got the pictorial start, the pictorial ideas, not from the film people. I got it from studying, even when I was a young student, the great painters of the history, the great artists. And I tried to inject I tried to study first what made them great, you know, in their art and their telling the story. And I tried to inject some of it into films. And at first I had an awful lot of trouble, because the producer didn't understand it, or most of them anyhow, not all. And a lot of times I got a notice at night, you know, that you're not wanted anymore. And and I didn't care. I was fired so many times that it became a style. If you look at the painters' works, take Rembrandt, for instance, I think his black and whites are the greatest, you see what I mean? So they try to do the same thing in pictures.
Please let me go.
We can't do that, Miss Lowell. Mr. Brown wants you should see the fight.
This was a fight picture, not about Madison Square Garden, the big championship fight in the belt, but it was a small tank-down arena and kind of the fringes of the fight game. And so it had a reality and a grittiness, a raw slice of life to it that I don't think some of these other films had. Matter of fact, I brought a special cameraman in for it whose work I had admired and liked very much and thought was just right for getting this grainy kind of black and white feeling.
All right, Stoker, we'll talk. Now.
Get him, Stoker! Cut him to pieces!
One of the things that you don't get in pictures either is a lot of extras and things. Now, that's why we use shadows so much. Shadows take the place. You know, you can put 3 shadows up on the screen and it looks like a crowd. And that's an important aspect of film noir, the interesting use of shadows and beyond the lighting of shadows, the lack of lighting.
You don't want to get mixed up in this. I had nothing to do with it. Crime anybody. You went crazy or something. Samuels didn't do anything to you. You just went crazy.
I didn't do nothing to Samuels either, except afflict him. Like that. Not that hard, maybe.
Stop it,
like
Monty!
that.
Stop, Monty!
That.
Monty,
Not
stop
hard,
it!
Monty.
Monty, stop it! You went nuts! I got nothing against any Jews, Monty!
Well, I don't like Jews, and I don't like nobody who likes Jews.
Crossfire was about anti-Semitism, and for some reason or other, I never could quite figure out why it was considered subversive in certain cases. Not really, because the picture was very popular in the country, but it was considered subversive, as though being against racism is something subversive. Now, this was a difficult thing about America, about the United States at that time. I didn't realize myself at that time how much the Cold War and how suddenly it had taken effect. All of a sudden, we had a new enemy. We no longer had the Nazis and the fascists, but we had a new enemy, which was Russia.
It's a time of virulent anti-communism, of the McCarthy hearings, of HUAC, and there are very persuasive arguments made about film noir. By some critics, noir is seen as a kind of coded communist text, a kind of coded social criticism that allowed screenwriters to make very, very pointed critiques of what was happening with this kind of rampant post-war capitalism, the corruption and the cost in human lives and dignity, and to make these points without being necessarily hauled up before McCarthy, though some of them, I guess, misguessed the parameters and did become part of the Hollywood 10.
When we made that picture, I had no sense of danger of any kind at all. No sense of danger. I was out of the party by that time. To me, it was a kind of a joke. And I thought it was when I got in, when they served the subpoena. I thought, well, this is going to be interesting, but it isn't going to amount to much. And I was so terribly wrong.
There's only one Communist Party. The Communist Party that puts out this pamphlet is the same Communist Party as the one that tells Fifth Amendment communists how they should testify.
Noir, back in the 40s and 50s, is also about not merely a political crisis, but also about a crisis of masculinity.
But you should know by now that men play rough. They soften you up, throw you off guard, and then belt you one. That was a dirty trick. But maybe it'll teach you not to overplay a good hand. Now she doesn't like you. She hates men.
That was only the first half of the speech. The rest of it goes like this. I hate their women, too, especially the big league blondes. Beautiful, expensive babes who know what they've got. Oh, bubble bath and dewy morning and moonlight. And inside, blue steel, cold. Cold like that, only not that clean.
Your slip shows, dear.
The femme fatale is probably the sine qua non of the genre. It's hard to imagine a film noir without a femme fatale at the center of it. And these women are rather fabulous character creations. On the one hand, they're inexplicably evil. On the other hand, they're irresistibly sexy, at least to the male protagonists. One hesitates to call them the heroes. And they're usually smarter than the heroes, but not smart enough to avoid a very bad end that usually is waiting in the last or penultimate scene of the film. These women are straight out of Greek mythology. They're straight out of the Bible. They're straight out of, any thriller or detective novel or fairy tale or myth you care to invoke. And that's very clear in some of these noirs, something like Kiss Me Deadly, which plays so clearly and so explicitly with myths like Pandora's Box, even in its very ending. This woman who is rapacious, who is greedy, who can't be stopped, and ultimately destroys the world. Archetypes of powerful women that are played with in the original noir clearly are very attractive to directors today working in neo-noir. In the original noirs, they have to be stopped, In the neo-noirs, they often aren't stopped and get away with it in the end. But I think that the kind of argument I'd like to make about that original portrayal of woman being very much linked to a post-war moment when women have got out of their place, I think that that has a relevance for now in the 90s, when once again a lot of men feel that women have got out of their place. Enough with the 70s and 80s of affirmative action. You know, get them out of here, get them off screen, or else watch out.
Can I help you?
I'm looking for Mr. Andrews.
That's me. And you're Mrs.
Miss Faye Forrester.
Come in.
John Dahl is probably the king of the insatiable women. The characters from Joanne Whalley-Kilmer in Kill Me Again, right up through Laura Flynn Boyle in Red Rock West, and up now most notoriously to Linda Fiorentino in The Last Seduction, who embody these female characters that never get enough. They want more money. They'll use any kind of sex to get it. They'll not only chew up the scenery, but chew up the men that come across their path.
And then, the murderer gets tired of wrestling and decides to kill the bitch and take her money.
I think there is something to worry about, because these women are totally denied any subjectivity. They are made so explicitly villainous that I think whether they are punished in the end, as in Kill Me Again, or whether they get away with it, as in The Last Seduction or Basic Instinct, there's a sense in which we women off-screen are liable to pay. And I think that we do have to be a bit worried about the villainy of these women and the kind of scenario that that kind of villainy may very well, in the end, invite.
Wouldn't it be easier if I took my dress off?
Sorry.
I always wondered what it'd be like to die a really violent death.
Well, now you know.
What's interesting about neo-noir, I think, is that it's already produced a significant number of pictures that I think are remarkable. After Dark, My Sweet certainly being one of them. And I'd have to include at this point in a top 10 list pictures like The Hot Spot and Kill Me Again and The Last Seduction, all of them produced within the last few years.
Idaho. You're gonna love it there, baby. I know a little place called Hell's Canyon. It's real peaceful up there. Lots of hunting and fishing, and we could hide out for 6 months, maybe a year. Who knows? Maybe we'll never come back. Yeah. I bet you're starting to get hungry, huh?
If there's a picture that kind of typifies the resurgence of the classic noir attitudes in neo-noir, it would be Kill Me Again. And I think there's a direct line from what happens in Kill Me Again, The Last Seduction. They are both about manipulative women. In both films, you have a male character caught in an obsessive relationship that is not just problematic in terms of surviving, but that really is of the kind that many characters in classic film noir experienced.
Where you from?
A galaxy far, far away.
Just trying to decide whether you're a total bitch or not.
Total fucking bitch.
never occurred to me that Linda Fiorentino would be called a femme fatale. I guess maybe I was stumbling over the obvious, but I guess I found it so intriguing to be able to have the opportunity to make a movie in which the main character was not that sympathetic in what we traditionally think of in a Hollywood film, that here's someone who is greedy and selfish and manipulative and a murderer and will stop at nothing to get what she wants, and this is our main character.
Get out on your own, Mike.
What do you want?
Nothing you're offering.
Try me.
A relationship of equals.
Okay.
That means commitment. I've done something committed, you haven't.
Oh, come on, murder! Murder is commitment?
Yeah, when I've done it and you haven't, it is.
Fine. Okay, who? Who do you want me to erase? Who do you want me to kill?
This Cahill guy in New York.
I'll do it. I'll kill the bastard. There's just one thing.
What?
I am never coming back to Beston, not for 1 second.
The film owes a lot of its success to Linda Fiorentino, who, very, intelligent lady who, when a lot of women didn't want to play this part, she wasn't afraid of the sex in the movie. She wasn't afraid of the character. She embraced this character.
Go find yourself a nice little cowgirl, make nice little cow babies, and leave me alone.
I'm hung like a horse. Think about it.
Let's see.
Excuse me?
Mr. Ed, let's see.
Look, I tried to be nice. I can see that's something you're
No,
not...
I'm trying. I can be very nice when I try. Sit down.
Maybe we just got off to a bad start. I know Ray's put plenty of people in a... What are you doing?
I believe what we're looking for is a certain horse-like quality.
You serious?
I'll never buy anything sight unseen.
Uh-huh. That's a good policy.
How many lovers?
What, do I get extra credit points for experience?
How many lovers?
13, 12.
Any prostitutes?
No.
Men?
No, ma'am.
Somebody told me once, they said, how I finally caught my girlfriend, how I finally figured out my girlfriend was having an affair, that every time I would talk with her and she was going out, she'd be shaving her legs. And I thought, well, that's very funny. So I told that to Virginia Madsen. I said, I talked to this guy, and he said he caught his girlfriend cheating on her, his wife cheating on him, because every time she was going out, she'd start shaving her legs. So I said, maybe every time you call him on the phone and you're getting ready to see him, you shave your legs. She thought that was a good idea. So he did that.
Harshaw Motors.
Mr. Maddox? This Miss Harshaw. I hate to be a pest, but I was wondering if I could ask you just a teensy, weensy little favor.
Well, sure, Mrs. Harshaw. What do you need?
Mr. Harshaw's cap.
What?
The movie is about sexual obsession, and it's certainly the Don Johnson, Virginia Madsen character, even though he's infatuated with Jennifer Connelly and they have sex and so on and so forth, and he's convinced that he's going off with her and marry her. The Virginia Madsen character has certainly another take on things, and basically blackmails him into a relationship. But in point of fact, the two people, the Don Johnson character and the Virginia Madsen character, should be together.
What's the matter? Don't tell me I'm slipping.
What'd you have to see me about?
Well, now I've heard everything.
Well, if that's all it is, let's get on with it. If we hurry, I mean, we catch the next train home. Keep your hand to yourself, or I'll break it off.
Who's on top this time? We hurry, maybe we can just make it.
And so, gentlemen, despite the team's recent unlucky run, the chairman...
LA is very much unconquered territory. Even now, it's still a place where there's no firm establishment of family, of business. It's all very touch and go, and it breeds an ambition that's very ruthless. And I think that film noir is best suited there in the same way that, like a Western, you know, a violent Western was most suited for the Wild West. I think LA essentially is like what, our version now of like the sort of developing community in the Wild West. Is what it once was. California, gold country, watch your back. Only now it's not gold, it's the entertainment industry.
The stranger coming with no backstory, not knowing where he's coming from, but knowing he's running from something and trying to find a new life. That's very film noir.
It's where everybody's taking advantage of everybody. Everybody's trying to get up on everyone. Why? I don't know what everyone's climbing to get to. The Hollywood sign? There's not much up there. A lot of weeds, maybe a dead body or something. And I think that you get these characters with these ambitions that exceed their moral decency. They have no grounding. They're all from somewhere else, and they're all going somewhere else, and you don't quite know where or why, and they'll do anything to get there. And that's why I think LA is such a great location for these dark films about backstabbing, seedy people.
They're coming up.
Did you hear me? He's coming up.
He's on his way down.
Press 20. Do it now.
In LA, you can be this hard-edged criminal with a .45 Magnum and walk down the street and run into a 13-year-old with a Uzi. And, it's that kind of world. And I think it's always been like that to a degree. Anything can happen. It's really more dangerous. It's more unpredictable. It's a really sort of macabre, but bright macabre place. That's the weird way of explaining it. But LA, it's in front of you. Everything's bright. There's no dark alleys. It's all laid out, flat. But things are just strange. That, for me, was really exciting to transport these characters here, and that's where they run into this mysterious criminal represented by by this Kobayashi character, Pete Postlethwaite, British actor, famous for playing an Irishman with a Pakistani accent and a Japanese last name. I mean, that's the kind of guy you'd meet in Los Angeles.
I am Mr. Kobayashi. I have been asked by my employer to bring a proposal to you, gentlemen.
What do you want?
My employer requires your services, gentlemen. One job, one day's work. Very dangerous. He does not expect all of you to live, but those of you who do will have $91 million to divide between you in any way you see fit.
Who's your boss?
I work for Kaiser Soze.
Touch of Evil, which everyone seems to agree in pinpointing as the end of noir, is really my favorite of all of these. It's such a dark view, and it's so delicious in terms of its characters, its narration, and the wonderful defining tracking shots that have sort of gone into cinematic legend. But what's interesting to me also about Touch of Evil is the way in which it's almost reprised by my favorite of the neo-noirs, which is Carl Franklin's One False Move. Astonishingly, both films are centered on white sheriffs of varying degrees of corruption or imnobility. The white sheriff personified by Orson Welles in Touch of Evil, and then the figure of Hurricane, this poor guy who turns out to have a secret, a terrible secret at the end, a secret that isn't Rosebud at all, but something quite different. And I think that there's another link between these two films also, and that's the handling of race.
Can't you do something to help me?
What are you scared of, partner? That stuff isn't nearly as easy to blow up as people seem to think. It doesn't go off quite that easy.
You found the dynamite in this box?
Dynamite? Yeah. Pete found it. Told you that.
Captain.
Yeah?
I looked in that box. Just now, there wasn't anything there.
I know how you feel.
Do you?
Sure, I do. You people are touchy. It's only human you'd want to come to the defense of your fellow countrymen. Vargas. Vargas, don't worry.
Why should I worry?
You go right ahead and say anything you want to. Folks will bear your natural prejudice in mind.
I saw that shoebox 10 minutes ago,
Yeah,
Captain.
well, maybe you didn't notice.
I knocked it over on the bathroom floor. I couldn't very well have failed to notice 2 sticks of dynamite.
Tell any story you want.
The shoebox was empty.
Go on saying it's empty. Folks will understand.
I'm saying more than that, Captain. You framed that boy.
Framed him!
And once again, with Carl Franklin, we get a very similar kind of inversion, where he plays really explicitly with an audience's assumed racism, opens the film with this moment of almost ultra-violence, and then goes about inverting that order, tracing racism back to the kinds of origin points it actually has, and using the figure of Cinda Williams to turn this whole imaginary, stereotypical order absolutely on its head, to invert it, and once again to find that it is a woman of color who turns out to be perhaps not just the victim, but the moral locus, ultimately, of the story.
This was a problem that I had when I first read the script as to why she was with either of those people. I thought, why would she, who has, you know, something so apparently beautiful and apparently strong about her in terms of her beauty, why would she find herself with these people? And of course, it all comes back to self-esteem. And so what I tried to do was to give social reasons within the casting, to suggest reasons. Even though Ray, in some respects, is not as decisive as Pluto, and I guess in that sense not as strong, he's very passionate, even though it's not love. He beats her, you know, he gives her attention. Their relationship, you sense, is a passionate relationship, even if it's not necessarily a positive relationship.
It's not a problem, Pluto. What you worried about?
What the fuck do you think?
I'll get you, baby. Why don't you loosen up and have some fun? Why don't you get high with Ray and me? Don't you want to feel good?
I think One False Move has a lot to say about neo-noir's relationship to its society in the way that the classic noir films related to their society. The violence of the classic period was stylized, and essentially the violence of a picture like One False Move is stylized as well. By emphasizing, if you will, the callousness of its characters, it dehumanizes them.
The violence precipitates the action. There are 6 murders at the beginning of this that cause the police to go on the trail of these people. And in order to handle these, and in order to, since it is about a guy's ambition, it is about someone who is overcoming an insecurity and wants to get involved in a bigger crime than he's ever been involved in before. The danger is an important element. We had to put this man in some kind of jeopardy. We had to somehow foreshadow what he was up against so that we feared for him, so that we knew that he was stepping into something that he was not quite prepared to deal with. That was necessary. And in order to do that, these people had to be bad people. Now, anyone who kills 6 people, or any group of people that kill 6 people automatically are bad people, but we've gotten so inured to violence in this country. And a lot of it is because we've seen so much, because it's become this choreographed, exhilarating kind of a dance, that we needed somehow to get back to the basics of what violence really is, and that is an invasion of human life and of humanity.
Everybody get on the goddamn floor and be quiet, all right? What the fuck's going on? Ray! I said get on the floor, goddammit.
Bobby. Let go, Ray.
Down.
Jackie, honey, just be quiet and everything will be okay.
I had a difficult time looking at those scenes myself at the beginning, but my feeling is that if you're going to do violence, you should treat it with respect. And you should not make it something that people are comfortable with, especially if the film is dependent upon it, you know. And I think that's the only time you really should use it.
Now, where does Marco live?
I don't know, Ray.
I said, where does he live, god damn it?
I don't know.
Where does he live, god
I
damn
don't
it?
know, Ray.
Well, how do you get your shit then? Does it fly over here? I said, where does he live, bitch?
Ray, would
Then
you
you
please
don't know
just
nothing
ask
about
her
this.
nicely?
Why don't you let us go?
I like films that deal with man's relationship with God, you know, man's relationship with a higher power and with himself, with his own sense of morality. I also like the extremes of the film. I liked the fact that there were not simplistic characters, that all of the characters had a lot of different layers, or at least had more layers than what I normally see in conventional American movies, especially the lead character. I like the fact that he was kind of a mixture of a lot of different influences, and that he was not necessarily a moral person. You know, he was ultimately very sympathetic and ultimately very moral. He made a moral choice.
There's a certain moral, psychological evolution that goes on that, of course, challenges the superficial cultural assumptions of certainly of this country and its Judeo-Christian British sort of heritage, that the demographics are changing so dramatically and being influenced by other ideas, that there is the breakdown of that homogeneous moral compass is, I think, quite a good thing. But of course, it's quite a disruptive thing and quite a frightening thing to people who want their God and their morality to be constant and clear and simple.
It's the stories and it's the characters and it's these people that are really sort of somewhere in the gray area of you know, their own morality, their own moral dilemmas. They're not clear-cut good guys, clear-cut bad guys. It's all that sort of vague, messy in between that, you know, is so interesting.
I think it was a Jean Renoir quote, was that he said, my problem is that I can see both sides of the coin at the same time. The very thing that I loved about After Dark was its idea that things had ambiguity to them, that they had contradictions to them.
Oh, hello, Rogers. You're early for a change, aren't you?
The more intelligent you are, the more psychologically honest you are, the more you're aware that we're swimming in a sea of ambiguity and contradiction.
Run along with Rogers now. Is that Rogers? Is it? Oh, my goodness. And who else would it be? Hurry up, you guys. Come on.
Rogers! Rogers! Charles has had a pretty trying day. Would you please tell Mrs. Vander that I suggest she stay home next week?
So the question is, why has noir come back around with so much energy in the 90s? There's probably a variety of reasons. Partly it's to do with the end of the Cold War. Just as the first time around it was a post-war response, now it's a post-Cold War response. It has to do with the lack of ideological reference, the loss of ideological reference. It has to do with a nostalgia for a time when genders were more in their place, even if the women were constantly trying to climb out of their proper place. It's also a nostalgia for black and white universes and for a certain kind of cinematic stylization.
Something like After Dark could break through and become a mainstream success, then I think it would help put back those two pieces that were separated by Star Wars and Jaws, and made it into this idea that there is mainstream cinema, which is not psychologically real and does not deal with a darker side of things, and art fare. You know, if these two things can come back together and converge, then I think that would have an enormous effect on getting mainstream cinema back on track.
We're looking for new villains and new monsters, desperately. You can create a new monster, you're going to make $1 million.
I love these movies, so I think no matter what I'm doing, it's going to be there somewhere in it, because it's what movies are to me. There's a large part of my being that says movies are really noir, and that's what I was brought up on, and that's what I enjoy more than the others. So I don't think I'll be able to really get away from it.